Welcome in. I'm John. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do some very simple painting, watercolors. We're going to use only two colors, and we're going to paint a nice sunrise from Tehachapi, California. Stay tuned. Okay, in this simple watercolor painting, I'm just going to use two colors. It's going to be indigo and transparent orange. The first thing I do is, it's hard to see here in the video, but I put two parallel lines. One's going to be where the ground meets the sky, and the other one's where I want the tree line to be. And right now, the first thing I'll draw those parallel lines down first with my pencil. Then I want to wet just the top, the sunrise, and I'll let that set overnight, and I'll let it dry. But I always do a wet on wet technique. So the first thing is I'll put water down, then I'll put the transparent orange down, and I'll move it around where I want it. Next day, after it's dry, I'll come back with the indigo, and it's called like a drag technique. I'll put the heavy color up top, and I'll drag down the color into the water. Get a nice, get it to mix well. And I use quite a bit of water in there, and I like to pull all the color down. And so when you're looking at a hillside where the sun's coming up, it's the darkest by where the sun is at. That's just where it is. So now I want to put the trees in. So I'm going to just go down to where I want the tree line to be, and I'm going to put the trees in. Notice the water doesn't go lower. I don't want the trees to leak down into the foreground. So then I'll just paint the trees in there, and I'll let them kind of go do their own thing. And that's exactly what they do. They just kind of do their own thing and make like pretty cool, leaves and stuff like that. And then once I get that done, I'll let that set for a little bit, and then I like to use a pen, an actual pen, and I'll like to draw in all my trees, like the trunks of the trees, the branches of the trees. And this is a small pen. And as you can see, I let everything dry first before you start in with your pen work. And I like to keep that line, because when you see the photo that I actually used from this, you'll see that there's a very defined line. And when you look at trees from this angle, there'll be a pretty defined line on where they start, their actual leaves, and where the trunks start. And I kind of like the Salvador Dali look. That's why I drew the trees like this. That's why I drew the roots. I give them a lot of character where I can. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool. You draw them in there. You just keep darkening in where you want them darker. And you can just make them any way you want. See, trees are very organic. So there's no right or wrong with a tree. Trees are what trees are. And there's no real right or wrong with that. And that's why I love drawing trees. They do whatever they want to do. And I darken in areas that maybe the paint didn't get to. I also, draw in all the other areas with this pen. And then, yes, this black pen looks a little bit different than the actual paint itself. However, at the end, when I use lacquer to spray over the top of it, you don't really notice that. It's really pretty seamless, and it blends in pretty well. So as you see, I'm just kind of darkening in all the little areas that I want darker than, and to stand out a little better. And you can really see how that sun looks behind there. That transparent orange really works well for the sunrise. And you can continue with this. You can put birds in there. You can put animals in there. You can put other sets of trees. I've done that too. You can do multiple sets of trees. You can make them any way you want. Make one big tree if you like. But like I said, there's no right or wrong with trees. They just are trees, and they grow all sorts of different ways. But this particular place, which is in Tehachapi, California, which is the mountains, we were out hunting, and one of the day breaks and when the sun rises, I looked up, and that's pretty much what I seen. I could see the sun coming up through the trees, and well, it's pretty spectacular. And so I thought, well, I'm trying to figure out how I can draw that. Here's a nice close-up. Look at the roots. I thought that was pretty cool. I think that pen really does a pretty good job of letting you define the roots and define the different trunks of the trees. And like I said, very Salvador Dali like. I kind of like that style, and that's how it came out. Now here's the color of the mountains, and the next photo is exactly, that's the tree line. As you can see, the ground and the mountains and all that stuff. That's why I did the trees. Anyways, thanks for subscribing, thanks for watching, and share it if you can. Thanks.